Like the song says, we're back. Acting tough again. See, it didn't occur to me that Bobby Brown tries to act real tough until Chris mentioned it like a year ago. Like, you see that one line where he's acting real tough. I'm like, leave Bobby Brown alone. It's not. Well, we're not going to get into Bobby Brown. It's HIAC Talk Radio 451, I believe. Yes, because 450 was last week, and we have our boy back. It's Omega Squad. Chris Green is here. Craig Lagans is here. I am here. Dan Law 83 on Twitter. Craig Lagans on Twitter. And, well, Omega Squad on Twitter. And if you're on Twitch, oh, by the way, yes, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can now see all the podcasts broadcasted live, raw, without any edits on twitch.tv/Dan93. And if you're on Twitch, you can find the actual video, because I haven't figured out how to get the video on Twitch to work, so it's audio only. You can see the edited show on youtube.com/DanLaw83. I swear I can talk. And if not, thebradyhicks.com for all the audio versions of all the podcasts. Stadium Journey has a new one up. Obey the Puck's going to have one next week. Our 2-week cycle. BradyHicks.com. TheBradyHicks.com. Now, a lot of wrestling is on. Especially this past weekend, you had NXT, you had Survivor Series. It was a big schmaz of wrestling. I like using that word from Bret Hart. Hey, Chris, what do you think? What do you think, Chris, of Keith Lee there, Chris?
Dude is super impressive. A guy that big doing the things that he does. I mean, that jump spinning round kick he did at Survivor Series, and that was before stuff he was doing at War Games was just super impressive. I have been away, as is been noted on this podcast several times. So I haven't been keeping up with NXT religiously, but this was really my first experience with Keith Lee, and dang if I didn't bask in his glory. I mean, that guy has a tremendous upside, a lot of super athleticism. The guy he reminds me of a little bit right now, and we've talked about before, is Brock Lesnar. A guy with that kind of size and athleticism, just ridiculous. He's got some ways to grow, and he's going to be impressive. I view he's a future champion, not only at NXT but in the main roster as well. I firmly believe that.
Craig, you've been exposed to Keith Lee for a long while now. How do you feel about it, especially after? Because cut through the end of the weekend, as Chris was just kind of not understating, but he just alluded to, the end of the weekend, he was one of the breakouts through Survivor Series, through NXT. Keith Lee was over.
He was indeed, and that's the one thing the Survivor Series traditionally does, and which I will touch on later in the Wrestling Historian segment. The Survivor Series makes stars. You know, more people have broken out or had their debuts or have been sole survivors or just stood out in Survivor Series and in any other pay-per-views. And Keith Lee, it was his show, with no exception. And because I've been around for so long, you see a guy who's built like Rufus Freight Train Jones, but can move like a Psychosis or a Rey Mysterio. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the leapfrogs with both legs, not just the jumping up in the air and spread leg. This is a leapfrog with both legs perpendicular, and the back springs and the jumping roundhouse kicks. Again, if
moonsault,
a guy,
just ridiculous.
Moonsault. The guy, he's built like Mark Henry or a slimmer version of Mark Henry. He reminds me of Rufus Freight Train Jones. Google that when you hear it, but if Rufus Freight Train Jones could have moved a third of the way that Keith Lee moved, Rufus would have been a bigger superstar than he is. I need to hear more of Keith Lee on the mic, for him truly to be over, because he is over. I mean, this is the first time, like you, Chris, this is the first time I'd seen a Keith Lee match, a full match. But I remember when he debuted, or they just showed him in the crowd at an NXT match, and the place went nuts. I said, okay, well, this guy must be something if the NXT crowd knows who he is before he even wrestled a match in NXT. Well, now the whole world knows who he is, and I hope he keeps it up. Use the word upside. Barring any major injury, I think he's going to find his way on the main roster definitely in 2020.
Well, before I make my next statement / question, let me stop you right there, Craig, and throw a monkey in the wrench. After this weekend, why are they not a main roster anymore? I understand size and scale. I absolutely understand that it's supposed to be the step before Raw and SmackDown, but they didn't get treated like they were lesser. It all depends. Obviously, it all depends on how it follows after, as far as booking, and they're portrayed on TV. But whether it was by design to make them pass, all right, we're not developmental anymore. You gotta get that word out of your vocabulary, or whatever the case. In that way, they ain't the minor leagues anymore. Whether or not they evolve past Full Sail for the TV show, I don't think that really matters at this point. You all heard the reactions on both Survivor Series night and NXT Takeover, that people knew who these people were. They cheered at the right times. They booed at the right times. They reacted at all the right times, where we could argue that right now Raw and SmackDown, not argue, it's obvious. Right now Raw and SmackDown, sometimes the crowd doesn't know what to do because the product is But I, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, developmental main show, but they're on USA. I mean, I don't think Keith Lee going to Raw and SmackDown will be better. If I'll add an addendum to that. Addendum? Chris, I made up another word. Every time you're on this damn show, I pick up a word. Addendum.
That's easy for you to say, Dan.
Yeah, no, it's not at all. I'll add a change, unless that means he spotlights on WrestleMania in the main event, then absolutely on Raw and SmackDown. You get the point I'm trying to make, that I don't know if it's really developmental after this weekend anymore. Craig, I'm sorry, you first.
I'm as we're recording this, NXT is on right now, and Keith Lee had a prominent spot. He had an amazing
did you see it?
Spot with Adam Cole, baby. That it's highlight reel material. I'd be surprised if it's not on ESPN somewhere tonight.
Chris, he did the boom. He did that pounce thing. And Adam Cole. It was both of them. Obviously, Adam Cole sold it, but Adam Cole, right at the end of the entrance ramp, sold that bump over the guardrail into the crowd.
And the call by Nigel McGuinness, where'd he go? He did the pounce? Adam Cole was coming down to the ring, coming down the ramp, and Keith Lee gave him a pounce as he was coming down the ramp, and he flew out of the shot and it landed into the crowd, two or three rows back. And you just saw him completely disappear from the shot. And Nigel McGuinness said, "Where'd he go?" And it definitely ESPN highlight material. But again, showing Keith Lee being a breakout star. Right now, he's what's keeping NXT, and obviously NXT winning the Survivor Series has the most matches, and NXT showing everyone what we've already known, that they have the superior brand. NXT has been the best wrestling show for the past 3 years, just from the stars they have and just from the matches that they've had. They're matches that are light years better than any main event matches on Raw or SmackDown or any of the pay-per-views. NXT takeovers are supremely better than any WWE pay-per-views from match to match. So them getting the winning, having the most wins compared to Raw and SmackDown was a great indicator of what we already knew, that they are the superior brand. Because they are the superior brand, you have nothing to you would be killing the brand by bringing Keith Lee up, or any of the Undisputed Era up on the main roster. That's what's keeping NXT. That's what makes NXT number one right now is Keith Lee, the Undisputed Era, Ciampa, all those guys. So no, you don't bring them up. You leave them right where they are.
Right,
I think it's
hold
going to
on.
be interesting to.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think
go ahead, Chris, sir.
I think it's going to be interesting to see where NXT lines up in WrestleMania season, because that's going to be the real test, right? Because for Survivor Series, this coming so soon off of the debut on USA and the war with AEW, it makes sense that NXT got as prominent a weekend as they did. Now, as you head into WrestleMania season and you head into, okay, I'm going to have a Sunday takeover instead of a Saturday takeover before the Royal Rumble, what does NXT get at WrestleMania? Does the NXT title and the women's NXT title get prominent billing on WrestleMania? Or is it relegated to a pre-WrestleMania takeover? I think that will really define where WWE sees NXT as a whole. For now, it's all about getting NXT the momentum on USA and trying to outlast AEW for now. But I don't think you can argue after this weekend that there's not going to be a whole lot more eyes on NXT. I think you made a number of stars coming out of this weekend. If anybody watched NXT, there was any number of the people who were participating on that show could be breakout stars. But in particular, I mean, the Keith Lees, the Adam Coles, Roderick Strong, having a tremendous match, on Survivor Series itself. I think that is really, really important for NXT to continue to be successful going forward. So we'll have to see what WrestleMania says, though.
I'll give you two more words from this weekend. Rhea Ripley.
Oh, absolutely.
My God. Did she just, other than Keith Lee and Roderick Strong and a few others, stole the goddamn show.
To me, she's even more than Keith Lee. She is the big winner of the weekend. I mean, to have the prominent position she had at War Games, kicking off that show, and to be, to win War Games with two people, basically single-handedly, because I don't think Candice was there, but she wasn't doing a lot by that point. I mean, it was really a single-handed Rhea Ripley win, and then to come on and have that match at Survivor Series as well. Tremendous weekend for Rhea. She was just everywhere. She was everywhere. She was on the post NXT shows. She's on the pre-shows. She's just everywhere, and really, I think it was set up. You could see the parallels between her and Charlotte in a lot of cases. Different style, different size, different everything there. But the trajectory that Ripley is on is very akin to what Flair was and where she is now. Peg Rhea Ripley is getting a rocket strapped to her next year.
I mean, I freaking hope so. Craig, do you agree or disagree?
Oh no, I agree totally. She is the franchise now, the women's division. That's no slight to Shayna Baszler. It's only because Rhea is the total package when it comes to ability, look, work ethic, and she just every match she has, she puts on a show. She's what Asuka was 3 years ago. And I think if they build her the way directly and they build her effectively and properly, and the NXT has never shown any instance that I can name where they drop the ball on someone, especially in the women's division, that some of the fans have taken to, and the fans that, and the people, the women that they push, all of them have again, they've never dropped the ball on any of them. Sasha, Bayley, Becky, Charlotte, Asuka. and Rhea Ripley's next in line. I mean, they have a proven track record of creating amazing female stars, and Rhea Ripley's next in line. I could see her main eventing a WrestleMania in her future.
Another, pardon me, another surprise, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised with who this is, but I guess I lost all my faith in. I have very little faith in the Raw and SmackDown booking right now. It's still very meh, and I'm not gonna crap on AEW or WWE or anybody else. I don't have it in me to fight like that anymore about what show's better. It's just at this point, whatever. If you like wrestling, you like wrestling. If you don't like one show, that's cool too. It's whatever. So I was a little worried about this, but when Kevin Owens came out as the fourth man, I can't count anymore. Fourth man, thank you both of you. As the Sting from War Games '96, that is the loudest the building has been in a long time. And it's like, what do you do now? I don't even care at this point. He's stone cold. He's Steve Austin right now. He's doing the stunner for crying out loud. Him and Adam Cole had that nice little WrestleMania 14 shout out during the match where it was the same sequence. Went for the stunner, got blocked, thrown off the ropes, did the sweet chin music, the super kick that got blocked, got spun around into a stunner. It was beautiful. It was poetry in motion. Speaking of Matt Hardy coming back, that was awesome too. But is it just that people don't care about Raw and SmackDown anymore? Is it that much of it? I can't figure it out now because that reaction at War Games was astounding. And then you watch Raw and SmackDown, it's like, I think we're getting to a topic that, Chris, you've alluded to and you even tweeted about. We have hit the too much. Too much. You're there.
It's too much.
We asked ourselves, what's too much? We're there. How do you feel about Kevin Owens? It's not him. I mean, hopefully they can keep that react because I want to see that again. You watch the old Nitros and the old Raws, even in '95. You watch the old Raws. Everybody craps about how bad that year is, and we all know it's looked down upon as the bad year of wrestling. But man, nobody reacts like that even anymore. And even then.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain wrestlers that resonate with the crowd, and Kevin Owens is one of them. Kevin Owens resonates with the WWE audience. Why does Kevin Owens resonate? Well, I mean, it's because he's different. He's not Roman Reigns. He's not John Cena. He is an everyman, and he's good on the mic, and he's funny, and he's entertaining, and he wrestles well. And yeah, he's a little bit round around the middle, but that's okay because he can still do stupidly athletic things.
So can I.
You know, and it's like, and that's who the audience wants to root for, and that's who the audience wants to see. And they're not generally presented with those type of entertainers on Raw and SmackDown right now. We get Brock Lesnar. We get Seth Rollins for lack of, I mean, it is Seth Rollins right now. Seth is stagnating right now. And there's nothing there. We're given stupid love triangle angles between Rusev and Bobby Lashley, and nobody cares. Nobody cares at all.
So much.
The NXT audience understands this. The NXT audience understands and watches a product that is entertaining. They get a wrestling product. Yes, there's feuds, but there is entertaining wrestling between the ropes every single show. They know that they're going to get a good product. And when Kevin Owens, a guy who they know will be entertaining, shows up on NXT as a surprise and does have that history with the NXT audience, of course he's going to get it. You know, what would you have gotten the same reaction out of? You probably would have got something like out of AJ Styles if AJ Styles showed up, because AJ Styles is a guy who resonates with with their audience, and doesn't have that NXT vibe. But if Seth Rollins showed up or Roman Reigns showed up, you would not have gotten that reaction at all. As big of stars as they are on Raw and SmackDown, you would not have gotten that reaction. It just wouldn't happen because they just do not. They're too much in the WWE machine, too much in that space of entertainment that is, for lack of, again, better discussion, better descriptions, is only entertaining in the mind of a 70-some-year-old man. And that is where the line is drawn. I think the audience is firmly drawing the line right now. I think this entire weekend is just proof of that. Where were the reactions all weekend? They were on NXT's side. Any NXT matches, anything like that. You did not get that same kind of reaction with The Fiend. Even The Fiend, as much momentum as he got, you didn't get that kind of reaction with The Fiend. You definitely didn't get that reaction with Lesnar and Mysterio. You just didn't see it. It was Adam Cole. It was Roderick Strong. It was Rhea Ripley. Baszler didn't get quite the same reaction. That's a whole different story. But that's the long and short of it from my perspective. It's just the audience has decided what they want to see, and they only really get it on NXT.
Craig, before I go to you, I just want to say, Jenny says, well, Seth was also booed when he went on NXT. So there is that.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah. That's what
exactly
what he said. Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris. Craig. Begins with a C.
Craig. No, I everything that Chris said, I would have said if he hadn't said it first. The needle is pointing towards NXT now more than ever, and Survivor Series just clearly illustrated that that they have the superior product now, and the NXT wrestlers, NXT matches get the spotlight, and deservedly so. Adam Cole, Keith Lee, Rhea Ripley, Roderick Strong, even Bobby Fish, they're the engine now. They run the whole show, and the fans know it, and the fans can see it. I'm guessing just because of the way things are going, I guess Seth Rollins is a heel now, not for anything that he's done or anything that he hasn't done. It's just, I guess it's because the fans are sick of him. So now they're going to boo him. Just for bad what, Dan?
I was going to say, for bad booking and it being shoved down your throat all the time.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's Roman Reigns syndrome or what, but Seth obviously has always been, even when he was a face, has always been more of a heel character. But it looks like he's turning into this kid. It's not like he's doing it kicking and screaming. And even with his face off with Kevin Owens on Monday, obviously, Kevin Owens is now by default the number one babyface on Raw. So Seth has to be the heel now, and he played it perfectly, calling out the entire Raw roster and bad mouthing certain people. I mean, and any person who insults Rey Mysterio, that's your heel.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Rey Mysterio is the Dusty Rhodes now. If you turn on Rey Mysterio, you're going to be a heel. Period.
I will say this. I do appreciate that the very next night on Raw, they were like, all right, you're heel. We're done. Like it's over. Maybe
throw in the towel.
It was funny because as the promo was beginning, I was thinking about how when you and I used to discuss Seth when he was King heel after the Shield turn. And it was like, he's so good at just being a sniveling little coward bitch. And that promo was sniveling little coward bitch. And he was finally back. And it would have been wrong to end that segment with him as face still. Insulting all the people at ringside was the way to go. And the 2 curb stomps at the end of the night. That's it. We're moving on. Perfectly done, which is something you can't say generally about TV. Before I forget, Chris, and I get distracted, we'll go back to this past weekend in a minute. How'd that Cain Velasquez thing go? How'd you feel about that whole poof thing? Done, gone, poof, magic.
I mean, I guess it makes somewhat of a sense that Cain Velasquez loses to Brock Lesnar in a wrestling match. Sure, but I mean, I am still struggling to find the point at the, other than, I think I said it when I was on. Is Cain Velasquez really going to move the needle for anybody?
I don't know.
Anybody other? There's a few hardcore MMA fans, and those people are going to watch. They're going to watch Crown Jewel. They're already spending money on ESPN Plus to watch MMA. I don't think they really need to spend it on the WWE network. It's just not. No, it was really kind of a pointless exercise in my view. I think Kane's got potential, but I mean, realistically, that wasn't that big a deal. I mean, does anybody even remember it at this point? I don't know.
I didn't remember it until I saw the footage. I was like, oh yeah, that happened.
That's the thing.
That was quick, wasn't it? Yeah, man. I don't know. I guess in my naivete, what's that word?
Naivete.
Yeah, whatever. Naivety. I'm from Philly. We say everything wrong anyway. Ask Craig. It's water ice. I thought maybe they'd do something more with it and not end it so quickly. I don't know if it was an injury thing or literally, I forgot about it. They mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
It was a few week interlude between Rey Mysterio getting beat up. That's kind of what
Yeah. Okay. You're right. I'll give you that one. Craig, before I ask Chris, what haven't we mentioned that stood out from this past weekend? Because I don't want to run down cards. And if I miss something, I miss something. But what else did you want to mention before we move on?
I honestly thought the top rope plunge by Ciampa and Adam Cole resulted in someone's death.
Probably should have.
Yeah, that's the only thing that legitimately made me hold my breath when I saw it. I'm not a big fan of the War Games ever. Ever since the first one where the kid almost broke his neck and JJ separated his shoulder so badly that he still is in pain. Almost 30 years later, I've never been a fan of the War Games. But that spot was really the one thing. But to both men that they were both on Raw the next night. I mean, both on Survivor Series the next night. Incredible. But that's the only thing that I wanted to speak of. I know Ciampa be okay just because he's a bionic, but it was Cole Baby that I was worried about, since he is the franchise now.
I was gonna say, man, his weekend. We talked about Keith Lee, but my God, from last week to now, Adam Cole was marathon man. He did not stop at all. Ladder match, Survivor Series, War Games, boom, boom, boom. Getting booted halfway across the arena tonight, live on NXT. It's time to just take a rest this week and lay in a bathtub of ice. Like, just chill out. I'm good, baby. Take a little rest. It's over thus far. But man, another guy that should never be overlooked. And I mean, we've literally been saying that for years on this show in particular. When we started interviewing him in 2012, he was on a couple times, was always gracious, was always nice. And seeing him, like a lot of other wrestling fans in the indies, watching this kid then come up to where he is now, it's crazy how good he is. Or as my friend said, Whittle Shawn Michaels.
Whittle Shawn Michaels. I like that.
He's so talented. Yeah. You know, it was Justin. It was, I told him to post that, and it was brilliant because I was laughing for like 10 minutes. He's so good, and I wish him nothing but. Craig, I feel so bad saying it because it's like I don't want them on the main roster. We'll say it like this from now on. Keith Lee should headline WrestleMania. Adam Cole better be headlining WrestleMania in some capacity by this next year. Absolutely. Rhea Ripley, WrestleMania next year.
Most definitely. Adam Cole really is if you're ever going to have another Shawn Michaels, it's Adam Cole, period. But he's got things that Shawn Michaels never had. Not just in terms of athletic ability, but in terms of charisma, the way he can sell, the way he can move. I know it's called Tequila Sunrise, but the Canadian Destroyer, when he does, is just as amazing. And the way he connects to the fans, and people that I know people, Dan, that just became Adam Cole fans simply from his interview that he did on our favorite morning radio show. People that didn't even know who he was.
Right. I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah. And people asking me, Craig, you like wrestling. Who is Adam Cole? I heard him on Press and Steve this morning. He sounded good. Said yes. He as good as he talks, that's how good he is in the ring. And they became fans. And they're going boom when he comes in the ring. I don't want to see. I want everyone to be on the main stage, but I don't want anyone from the main stage because we know what happens to NXT wrestlers, especially in the NXT Tag Team Champions, when they come up on the main roster. So I don't want the Undisputed Era to go. But the thing is, if you have a team or a squadron that defeats the Undisputed version, they better be damn good. If losing means they're moving up, that's bad. It's good for Raw or SmackDown, but man, whoever they choose to take their spot better be the people that can keep NXT afloat.
Chris, any takeaways from this weekend that we have not mentioned thus far?
I think it was very telling. I mean, we kind of already talked about it, just the lack of excitement for the general WWE product, the main roster, quote unquote. I think Survivor Series was interesting in that if you had ended it after the first 2 hours, I would have felt pretty good about it. And I think the Lesnar Mysterio match kind of took the air out, and then I think the women's match main event didn't quite gel the way I think some people would have thought it would have. Felt a little sloppy to me. Just some stuff wasn't quite clicking for whatever reason. Don't know why. I don't really know why. I mean, some was booking, some of it was just positioned, and I think some of it was style. I think Shayna, for all her dominance in NXT, did not mesh well with Becky and Bayley. I think Bayley in particular had some struggles there in that match, but overall, I mean, I think if you watch the whatever six hours of wrestling this week, I think you got at least 5 good ones out of it. And I think there was a lot to like overall, which is more than I can say for, say, Raw and SmackDown on a weekly basis.
I will say this too. The match was not the best of the weekend, the ladies, and I don't care that it was the main event in that way. Like, it was the main event. It was fine. Good. I'm glad it was the main event. More women's main event. It was just on Survivor Series, not a good idea. And that's just because of the Survivor Series matching and pacing. Because that show was 90% pacing was fine. But after you had the amazing, it was a great Survivor Series match. Women's was, men's was, matches in between and bookending before that, all fantastic. I think a Survivor Series, it should be simple. I know it's like world title should always be the main event. Well, okay, there's some exceptions. If Survivor Series should be the main event. Because after that match, nobody else cared. even if that match could have been great, and Chicago would have been like, we are tired.
Yeah,
it's time to go to bed.
Chicago sat through SmackDown, they sat through Takeover, they sat through
Survivor Series, and then they sat through Raw again. So, yeah. So, it was 50-50. If it was a good match, it probably would have been very subdued because everybody was just so damn tired.
Yeah,
it's a lot to do.
Well, to your point, if you ended on the men's Survivor Series match, would have been fine. Sandwich the women's title match somewhere in there.
Yeah,
and fine.
Free main event. Go main event.
Go main event. Fine.
Just should have been last. Not on Survivor Series.
Nope. Well, that was the disservice. That was the disservice to those women, and they had a hard time with it.
I will say, and this is somebody who's not been in that position, that the reaction might have. I know they're professionals, and it probably didn't affect them. I'm making an assumption here, I'm totally talking out of my ass, that it might have been part of it, of why everybody was like, "What do we do? What do we do now?" This is not what it, because people were behind that. That segment where Shayna Baszler walked in on Becky, sat down in the chair, met her face to face was great. Bayley was cutting decent promos and kicking the crap out of them. It was a great back and forth from all three of them. And then it was just, hey, good night, everybody. We're tired. Yep. Chris, how is, I think we covered everything that we all wanted to. Did you have a follow-up from that, or are we good?
No, we're good.
I'll talk over you, sir. I don't have you on. I'll talk over Craig, but you're not on enough for me to talk over you that much. So I think we're just going to keep it to this last week on this episode. Next episode, Craig, is just going to be you and Wrestling Historian, because it'll also help me on the edit. Because, like I said, if you're listening live, or if you're listening now, next week's will be still happening, but we're recording it ahead of time because I won't be here. It'll make it easier on the editor, which is me. So wrestling in general. You did tweet that remember when we said we'll see too much. We've seen too much. What's the state of wrestling in your household as it is as of November 27th, 2019?
Yeah, it's still too much. I mean, it just is. And I mean, right now, I think even in a time when I'm not watching a lot of other TV, there's not a lot of compelling reason for me to come back right now. I mean, I keep up with stuff. I watch, the dirt sheets, and I see things like Rusev and Lana and Lashley, and I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care about that. I see Mysterio and I see Mysterio and Lesnar. I don't care. It's just, there's just not a lot dragging me back. And the only thing that does drag me back is the promise of a takeover, which I know will be at least entertaining. And right. So I come back for NXT, and I don't even watch NXT on a weekly basis because it's too much. It's just too much. I mean, even if granted, I'm lapsed here. I'm coming back from the position of I need something really compelling to come me back, and weekly television isn't doing that for me right now. Even NXT, although if I happen to end up on USA on a Wednesday night, wouldn't hurt my feelings. I think I could sit down and watch that hour of USA, 2 hours, and call it a day and be good with it. AEW is interesting, but I haven't watched an episode yet, right? So you're trying to find somebody to. If you're trying to draw in new fans or lapsed fans, AEW hasn't successfully done that yet. Is that a reason? I guess it's just me personally, right? I at least am aware of AEW tangentially, but I don't know that someone who's a lapsed fan is really paying that much attention to AEW. So I mean, I'll swing back someday. And I'll tune in for WrestleMania. I'll tune in for the Rumble. I'll tune in for Survivor Series, but I'm not.
Yeah, tune in for SummerSlam. That's when we have you on again.
Well, yeah, but I'll tune in for SummerSlam because I'm contractually obligated to be on. But but it's just hard. It's hard for me to see where wrestling is in my life right
now. It's the same thing with me. I mean, I watch Raw. I watch everything, but mostly, except for the pay-per-views or the special events. I don't watch it with sound. I'll watch it as I'm doing something else. I'll have Raw on or watch hockey games or a couple of hockey games. That's the way this house works. I'll all wrestling, because I'll eventually watch NXT and AEW for the next episode. It'll be while I'm doing something else. And, you watch wrestling long enough, when you're supposed to pay. I should be watching this. So, like, if there's a promo, I'll unmute it. I'll make sure I get all the promos in, and I watch 95% of it. And let me rephrase that. I watch 100% of it, but about 80% of it is without the sound. So, and that's just because I just got so much other things and wrestling right now. And I don't mean this as an insulting. Wrestling is in another down period. And it can't last long with all these TV shows. We've seen this before. It'll take a while. The momentum will get swinging again. We're Wednesday night and Monday night and Friday night. Hopefully those two, but hopefully for WWE's sake with Fox, will be must-see TV again. It's just another wrestling cycle. And sometimes they last a couple years before it's like, ooh. So yeah. Craig, where are you at with wrestling right now after this? Because it's like this. Because this weekend was great. I'm like, all right, sign me up. And then halfway through Raw, I'm like, all right,
I'm out. Wrestling is on in my household every Monday and Friday.
Sure.
It's on right now as we record this on a Wednesday. So I was switching back and forth between NXT and AEW.
I remember.
Yeah, that other organization. I'm very happy. I'm most happy about the fact that the best wrestling on any show, NXT, is finally getting the credit that it deserves and getting the exposure. And none of those guys really dropped the ball when they had the spotlight on them. So I'm very pleased with the way wrestling is now.
Yeah, see, different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody just going, yes, I agree on this show. I like it. Chris, did you want to, anything else you want to mention about wrestling in general or MMA in general before we say goodbye to you again for a couple months?
Oh, the Rumble isn't that far away. No, I think we've covered pretty much everything, and MMA is I'm in a down period with MMA too, so I haven't really been paying ton of attention to MMA.
Well, why are we here?
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here? Oh, I know what I can ask you about before we go, just to tag on a couple more minutes. CM Punk, what'd you think about that whole thing? Did you see any of it?
I did. I didn't watch the whole show, but I saw clips. I saw his appearance when he debuted. That's an interesting little scenario, right? I mean, that's hey, Phil got paid. Let's put it that way, right? And Phil knows how to push buttons and to be in demand. And I think he's happy doing that. I think he's happy not doing what everybody wants to, right? He's doing just enough to make keep people interested. So I think this is about as far as he's going to go, for at least for now. I don't see him coming back and doing a match anytime soon. I don't see AJ coming back miraculously.
Oh yeah, I guess AJ not coming back, but also I don't think she'll be back. I don't know, but I will say this. Craig, as well. I don't know. You've watched Backstage, so I know you've seen it. Chris, I was vamping while you were freezing, so
I saw.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I will say this. The highlights for the last 2 weeks for me was Backstage. As far as wrestling, as far as TV show not production, presentation. I like the sports presentation of Backstage. You get what I mean? It's on Fox, so it has that Fox production where they're analyzing everything and talking about things that you wouldn't talk about even during the Monday Night War. You wouldn't talk about as if it was like that kind of legitimacy. So I quite enjoy it. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch Backstage until the first CM Punk episode. I very much enjoyed how they're presenting that. And to add on to what you were saying, Chris, and maybe you could continue where you left off, I think having a guy like CM Punk on that show who's not contracted by both could be a shot in the arm for somebody who's listening, like Mr. Levesque or Mr. McMahon.
Well, I mean, it can't hurt. I mean, it because he doesn't have any skin in the game, right? As far as WWE goes, then yeah, he can say things and not have to worry about it. And he's going to do that anyway. But I mean, but whether or not it changes hearts and minds, particularly in those two people you mentioned, remains to be seen. I really doubt that anything short of a heart attack is going to change Vince McMahon's mind anytime soon. I think Triple H is at least reasonable, and I think NXT is a reflection of that reasonableness and willingness to listen to what the audience wants and knowing what the audience wants nowadays. I think CM Punk. I think Fox knew what CM Punk was where the audience wanted, and they wanted that voice of the voiceless, for lack of a better term. So hey, it got them some ratings for a couple episodes anyway. We'll see how it goes for the rest of the time.
It wasn't a lot. I mean, it wasn't. They weren't knocking down any doors with those ratings, but
no.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you for joining us. I guess we'll see you maybe at the end of the year, depending on how busy we are. I might ask you to do end of year thing, but unless something earth-shattering happens, it really wouldn't be more than everything we just discussed right now about where we are with wrestling and who the hell's watching and who's not. So with that being said, how did Syracuse do tonight?
Oh, we only lost by like 20.
Oh, the Sixers won, the Flyers won, the Phantoms lost, so I'm 2 for 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So at least 3 of the orange teams, 2 of the orange teams did. Well, one of the orange team. Never mind. Chris, where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at OmegaSquad.
Craig, where can people follow you, sir?
Oh, hey, Dad. People can follow me if they so choose on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter at Craig Ligons, CraigLiggeons.
Next Thursday, you have a little get-together at the Camp Out for Hunger. What will that be, please?
It will entail you dressing up as your favorite costume character or just favorite anything. It's called Heroes Against Hunger, Cosplay for a Cause, sorry, at the Preston Steve Camp Out for Hunger. The Preston Steve Camp Out for Hunger is the single largest food drive in the United States, nay the world. And for the first week of December, they'll be doing their show live at the Xfinity Lounge and right where the stadiums are. And we ask for people to donate as much food as they can. And every night there is an event after the broadcast. And next Thursday night will be my event. I'll be hosting along with my tag team partner, Rockstar Rob of the Comic Book Gurus podcast, the other podcast that I do. So anyone within sound of my voice, please come down next Thursday. Whatever costume you were wearing on Halloween, wear it again next Thursday. If you rent it again. Dress up for a good cause, and bring as much food as you can down, and we'll have a great time. Heroes Against Hunger, cosplay for a cause.
Thank you, Craig.
Acronym.
Pick up on that.
HIAC.
Before I leave, I'm not going to get into the whole situation, but I do want to say another verbal apology to Jake Bishop of New Moon Rising Wrestling. Had a little tussle on Twitter with another person that doesn't really matter. But the guy that I do care about, I hurt. And I called him and we talked. And everything, the slate is clean. And that is a slate that mattered to me. And I do want to say, again, verbally, I apologize. Basing some smart-ass sarcastic remarks on things that were either not completely true, completely false, or manufactured to you, and going with that, it's not always the best idea. And when you do, you should probably admit when you're wrong. And I admit that I was wrong, and I apologize. Yes, Craig, you were going to say something?
And when you do,
try to speak with him, please be polite and to the point at all times. So anyway, I do want to shout out Jake Bishop. I apologize. Thanks for being so cool about it. With that being said, you can see my non-sarcastic, hopefully educational smartass remarks at Dan83 on Twitter and the HIAC Talk Radio. Thanks, Chris. I saw that. The HIAC Talk Radio podcast is at thebradyhicks.com. VOC Nation Radio Network. Type that in on iTunes to listen to your phone. On your phone, not to your phone. You always listen to your phone. If you want to watch the video version, it is at youtube.com/Dan83. And if you want to listen live, just without video, because I don't know what button to press, even though I've read the instructions 50 times, I'm still missing a step. It's twitch.tv/Dan83. For the gyrating Craig Lagans and gyrating Chris Green, Omega Squad, I am the above average comedian Dan Calchico. We'll see you next week with Wrestle Historian Plus. Goodbye, everybody.